An ordinary man named George, to put it mildly, is not having the best time. Even his attempt to say goodbye to life turns out to be unsuccessful. The chandelier he was about to hang himself from breaks, adding even more chaos to the already messy room. After resting and breathing for a little, George removes the noose in disappointment. He painfully looks at the closed neighboring room. The door of that room is missing a handle for some reason. After that, George heads to the bathroom, where he carefully looks at his reflection in the mirror. He turns the faucet on and washes his face. Refreshed, George looks up and doesn't even notice that his own reflection has turned its back on him. He wipes his face and is about to leave, when suddenly he realizes that something is wrong. George carefully turns around and approaches the mirror, where he can only see the back of his head. He tries to understand what is happening. He touches the mirror and his face, but nothing changes. George takes a hand mirror and sees the same thing there. Suddenly, his neighbors knock on the door to make sure everything is okay with George. He tells them that everything is alright. After they left, George loudly screams at his reflection, grabs a roll of toilet paper and throws it at the mirror with all his might. The glass shatters into pieces, and the roll hits his head. A powerful blow knocks George off his feet and he falls into the bathtub. Barely getting up, the man notices to his surprise that there is some dark substance that looks like water behind the mirror. He comes closer and touches the glass shard, which simply sinks into the dark abyss beyond the frame. George tries to remove the frame from the wall and accidentally dives headfirst into it. After breathing a little, he sticks his head in there again and sees his doppelganger, who is slowly sinking to the bottom. Terrified, George throws the frame on the floor and grabs the hand mirror. He can't believe his eyes. This time his reflection has completely disappeared. Suspecting that his reflection is in trouble, he urgently decides to help it. Fortunately, George has been a diving instructor in the past, so he has everything he needs close at hand. After putting on a scuba diving suit and all the necessary equipment, George throws a rope tied to a faucet into the water. After giving it some thought, he slowly descends and heads for the bottom. All of a sudden, the rope breaks and everything goes wrong. After some time, George rises to the surface and pulls out his doppelganger with the last of his strength. He gives him first aid and his reflection regains consciousness. The aggressive doppelganger immediately decides to attack George and a rather funny fight ensues between them. In flippers and scuba gear, they awkwardly slide on the wet bathroom tiles trying to hit each other. Then, the doppelganger grabs George by his throat and tries to strangle him. But George gets saved by a toilet roll, which he shoves into the opponent's face. After that, the fight stops for a bit and tired George takes out a can of cold beer hidden in the toilet tank. Then he takes out another one and offers it to the doppelganger. They peacefully sit down next to each other, quench their thirst and apologize to each other in sync. Afterwards, they head to the room where the doppelganger hands George the handle of that closed door. He opens it and carefully goes inside. It turns out that this is the bedroom that he couldn't enter after his wife's death. The coat hangers are scattered on the bed and there is only one neatly folded green dress that George has never been able to throw away. He kneels down, inhales its scent and weeps bitterly. The doppelganger watches him sadly from the other room. George calms down and his gaze stops at the photo of him and his wife. He looks around and notices that the doppelganger has disappeared somewhere. George carefully approaches the mirror and sees that his reflection has returned.